Hey, Kim. So this week, we had talked about last week about doing some conversation around what it takes to be a good sitter. And
Yes.
then I know I've had a lot of questions from the small group of people I work with about being a sitter in practice circles and being a good sitter, the difference between being in a practice circle, being in a development circle, and then being a person that goes and pays for a reading, what to expect and how to be. So I'm going to let you start with anything that pops in your mind first, and then we'll take it from there.
Headlights. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to start off with practice circles.
Okay.
Okay. And I think there's seen a lot of the practice circles. Well, people want to help out the medium.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And they want to make it fit. Do not do that. Don't make it fit. Let them figure it out. But we had talked about that. I think Andrew said something in about that. So, but that's one point to it. But also, not to interrupt the medium. A lot of people like to give it additional information. So, giving a yes, no, or I don't know. That would be good for, well, that's good.
Especially for practice. I think you're right, especially in a practice circle, because we're trying to push ourselves. And if somebody comes in right away and goes, oh, I know how I can take that, and it's this, this, and this, and this, we lose the chance to practice.
Yes. Unless somebody says, what can you take from the information? Even with that, just do the list. I can take cat, I could take pillow, I could take lamp, I could take, books, I can take motorcycle. That's it. Because some people will go into, well, they used to really love to garden, when they lived in California. So I understand that. And I understand that we're, no, just give off the list. Because the whole intention for the medium is to hold that power with spirit. And if you're having a conversation with that medium, you're taking them out of the power of spirit. Right?
Yes. Take him, and I'm just going to explain that term because I don't know that everybody knows what taken out of the power of spirit means. From that focus on that spirit communicator, and and that's considered more of the artistic or the emotional side of us, right? And if we're pulled into, well, I gotta think about what they said and I gotta do this, and then all of a sudden we want to please the person because we start thinking about it instead of feeling it. So taking out that power takes us out of that feeling part, which is, so that's a great point. I know that also sometimes I hear in the circles, well, can you tell me what color that was? Or did you get the relationship yet? Because I think I can take it, but I'm not sure unless you give me the exact relationship. Or can you get more on that point? Well, no, they can't. Or if they can, leave them alone and let them do it, especially in practice. I'm talking about practice circles.
Right. Well, I will say that goes for one-on-ones as well, because I will get that. I got one time, this was hysterical though. I was in the middle of a demonstration and I was describing this man's grandfather's property and the river and the stream that ran through and how they used to skip rocks, and there's river rocks. He goes, all right, so what color was the river rock? I'm like, I don't know what color the river rock was. And what I tell people is this: if I have that information, I'm giving it to you. If I don't have it, if it's not coming out, I'm not getting that information.
Right.
So, if they tell me like, well, what state is it from? I don't know. If I did know, I would be telling you, because if I have to go back and really research that, that means I'm using my analytical mind.
Right. And at that point, we're serving the wants and the wishes of the sitter or the circle participant, and it has nothing to do with our connection with that spirit person any longer.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't this isn't show me now time. It's just,
Yeah, and I love how they used to say, well, they still do, like, well, what state did he live in? Well, what town did he live in? And I said to one lady one time, do I look like a GPS? I'm like, I don't know what to use. Sometimes I just lose it. I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, there you go.
yeah,
I don't know.
I know. And I think I know we've talked a lot right now about not, but I think sometimes when people are brand new to mediumship and they're coming for maybe the first time and they haven't had an experience before, we need to know how well we are at holding that space and that power and staying in that when somebody does need to interrupt or does say something, you know,
Right.
because I think there are sometimes these people just don't know, right? So it's different than a practice circle because we're assuming that people, and maybe we shouldn't assume, but we're kind of recognizing that people are there because they recognize at least something about mediumship and recognize that they have a bent towards that, right? And in an individual setting, that person might not have anything other than they're grieving and they wanted to come and have a reading, you know. But I think we need to know ourselves in those instances and know that if we cannot hold that space or that power and stay in that while somebody does interrupt, and maybe it's not time for us to be a medium for those kind of readings.
Right. Yeah, that's a very, very good point. But you know, how to be a good sitter is basically just being open to what they are giving you as well, you know, because some people walk in to a reading, especially people that have never had a reading before, that have misconceptions of how a medium works.
Exactly.
So it's really important, and I always do this with every single client that I work with, whether they listen to me thoroughly or not, it's really up to them. But sometimes they don't listen and they're just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. And I know the people that do that because they'll go, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I'm like, no, you don't know. But okay, you know, and then they don't know. But I always kind of let them know how I work as a medium, what to expect, and my guidelines, such as please don't give me any information. Just give me yes, no, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's great. If we are upfront, we're more apt to have a sitting that's agreeable to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
And another thing is the sitters, and this goes for, you know, people that are getting one-on-ones, the people that are in demonstrations, or even people in a practice circle, be engaged.
Yes,
Engage
exactly.
when the person is talking, you know, and if you can't, then turn off your video for, you know, preferably you leave your video on. But there's times where I know that I'm doing something or the phone rings or something, I have to pick it up and I'll put my video off, you know, because it's very distracting when somebody's sitting there like this,
Yeah.
laying in bed. I cannot, that drives me nuts when people are laying in bed and they got the pillows underneath and, you know, well, put your video off because that is distracting. I remember one time I couldn't read it all because I'm just like, this woman is eating potato chips and laying in bed. And I'm like, I can't read, you know. She threw me out and she wasn't even the person that I was connected to, you know. So it's really important to kind of sit up if you're going to put your video camera on and be engaged, you know.
Yeah, especially in the practice circle, part of it is sitting for each other, you know, not just being the sitter as the recipient of I can take that message, but in that energy, that power setting for each other. You know, when you pay attention to each other, all of a sudden you bring up what each other is capable of in the moment.
Right.
It's not just the distractions, although that's a huge part of, but also, you know, the energy present. So I would suggest that if you're going to be a sitter in a practice circle, if you know that you have a bazillion things going on, or that your kids are still awake and they're young, or the, you know, whatever, or you need to make dinner right then, that maybe you don't participate in that circle, because it's about the practice of not just recognizing the information from spirit, but recognizing the energy that's present. You know, that's
Right.
part of the practice while you're sitting in these circles.
Yeah, and it's a good opportunity to sit in to sit in the power. or sit in the silence. You can put your volume down, you know it's not for you, and just sit there. And it's, you know, sitting in the power is just honing into the spiritual realm. Okay, it's just, you know, so you are giving back to the reader when you're doing that as well. You know, just asking spirit to come around, you know, not connecting so much and getting information, but just asking and feeling what that spirit essence is, you know, whatever that, you know, that godlike or that infinite light feels like, you know, and that is transplanted into what the reader's doing at the time too. So all the energy that you bring in. So if you're sitting in the power at that particular time, it's also honing in on that energy, right?
Exactly.
I don't know. It's a good idea to, you know, I just was thinking about that. I'm like, well, why can't they just sit in the power? You know, they're too, people are too worried about, I gotta get somebody. No, you don't.
No, you don't. But sitting in that present space for each other, like you said, that power space
Yeah,
is huge, because you do lend everybody that is very, very present in that fashion lends to the reading, and it lends to the connection. And part of being a sitter in these development circles and practice circles is that's part of the practice, and that's part of the service. And we lose that because, you know, we want the wow information, or
right,
sometimes we're there because we think we want a message, not that we want to practice or be of service to other people. So I would
right,
keep that in check too. You know, check in with ourselves. Are we really going so that we can be in presence in that space? Or are we going because we think we want a message?
right. Oh yeah, that's true. You know, what are your motivations? Yeah. So that's what I got.
Great. Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome, Jen.
And thank you all for being here. If you have any other queries for us, send us a message and we'll add it to our list. Thank you.